Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today I want to show you my last recent project, which is a Righteous Fire Explodey Bomber Elementalist. Something that I have played in the past in the form of a chieftain. I think a league started that even because it's just so good, so much fun, and so enjoyable to play. And this one is an Elementalist using an Explodey chest combined with Herald of Ash, Fan the Flames, big AoE, big chain reactions, big explosions, and yo, this is what I just love in Path of Exile, these kind of archetypes, these kind of builds. So the core build is from Captain Lance. So he made a build about Mageblood, Righteous Fire, utilizing Ruby Flasks and like other things to gain like a ridiculous amount of tankiness using Tempered by War, which I go over later. Which, well, it's basically Divine Flesh for fire resistance, and if you run 90 fire resistance, then obviously it's similar the function as the Divine Flesh. Then a couple of jewels here with my beautiful Crimson jewels here. I made actually 7 out of those, but in the end of the day, I only used like 3 or 4 or 5 or something like that, just because I needed space for Corrupted Blood, I needed a space for poison and bleed immunity and stuff like that. I think before I say anything about the build, how it is put together and stuff like that, we're gonna run a couple of maps here. I'm currently farming blood-filled vessels for the endgame grind, complete 1000 rituals, so that's gonna probably take me another, like, I don't know, 200, 300 maps to complete. So I choose to go with the Heroic Hamlet here on the top side because here are some ritual modifiers. So we're just gonna toggle along. This is like an 8-hole map. We have here this is Elder, Ambush, Metamorph, and a Blood-Filled Vessel, pretty much. So, in terms of what can this build do, it can do all content, right? So, I personally use it as a pure mapper, and if you're wondering, yo, you just played an Essence Drain Contagion Spellslinger, I mean, isn't that like one of the craziest mappers? Then yeah, you're right, but instead of pressing one button here, we just press no buttons, because we have Righteous Fire, we run in, and things just explode and melt and whatnot. And I'm currently running, I think, like about 5 million DPS just on my Righteous Fire alone, which is fair enough to do all kind of content. I actually initially planned this build to be a pure DPS build. I think I reached like over 16 million Righteous Fire DPS, which is ridiculous. But at some point when I reached like over 5 million DPS, I said like, dude, I just don't need this DPS, you know? And at the end of the day, I decided to go for a way more tanky route, similar to the Essence Drain Contagion with a lot of quality of life. I'm talking about stun immune, no, actually not stun immune. No, actually, this build is not stun immune. Holy shit, I'm so bad. So, crit immune, monster damage is unlucky, you know, ailment immune. We have like 70,000 armor, we have 50,000 evasion. What else? We're poison and bleed immune, corrupted blood immune, critical strike immune, like all the good things combined in one build with a super lazy playstyle. And I don't know, like, this build is just so enjoyable to play. It is just like run around, kill stuff, explode them. Then the, since we're Elementalist using the Shaper of Flames keystone here, all of our damage can ignite and all our hits will ignite. So we don't have to worry about anything when it comes to like chance to ignite or something like that. Elementalist with Shaper the Flames comes all in one, like the all-in-one package for Ignite, basically. So even my Explo, even though it's a physical base damage, will ignite. And then we have Fan the Flames and a bunch of area of effect, so we are spreading those ignites, causing this really, really big chain explosions. So I modified this build quite a bit from the from Captain Lance's original build, just because he's playing with an Impulsor with the Storm's Gift Gloves, and I said, like, you know what, I want to have Herald of Ash, I want to have my Explodey chest and stuff like that to make those very, very beautiful chain reactions. Herald of Ash itself doesn't really do anything on this build. Like, it gives me a little bit extra damage on my explosions and adds a bit of fire damage, because Herald of Ash gives you this extra fire, right? But at the end of the day, it just doesn't do anything but looking good. And this is, I think, you know, a good build, and it's always like tankiness, it needs speed, it needs clear, you know, it needs everything. And good MTX, as well as a very aesthetic way of like farming with this character, right? And Herald of Ash definitely provides these like feels good explosions, right? And you're gonna see later on, maybe this is not like the best map to showcase. We're gonna run a waste pool map in a second. Just gonna do here the boss real quick so you can see what this damage looks like. If you're wondering, like, yo, why did you just drop so fast? It's because Wild Righteous Fire. So the problem with Wild Righteous Fire is that you drop like what 60% or 70% of your max life once you activate it, and that's why I incorporated in an Enduring Cry. So every time I use my Wild Righteous Fire, I'm instantly gonna leech myself or regen myself up, basically, right? Okay, let's do the next map. Oh wait, before people get triggered, I forgot to do the ritual, but it's so far in the league. That I personally don't really care too much about currency or whatever things anymore, so I don't typically not even use the rituals in that case, right? And I think the build is pretty much done for me. I'm using now Viridius Veil with the blue ring here, right? Have a shield now, so I put it in another Grace here, right, for more aura stacking, basically. Wait, quickly run the next map just for this pure, beautiful showcase. Then I'm gonna go over how does this actually work? If you want to build or make a build like that, would you do that in the best case scenario, right? I still don't know exactly why I'm not able to one-shot legions, even though my ignites are spreading. Because I've seen, you know, videos from the past where we basically one-shotted legions just with one beautiful chain reaction, but for some reason this is just not the case anymore. It is kind of when you now clear the legion, basically. As you see, it just fucking massive boom, and we killed the monster somewhere over here, and here everything is dead, you know, the entire ritual. It's just like sometimes you get chain reactions where it just clears like 5 screens or something, right? And since people were a bit of disappointed when I stopped the Wave of Conviction Ignite character, because they said like, yo, this is probably one of the the coolest builds, right? That's why I also said like, yo, I need to play another build with like super beautiful explosions just to show you guys this like super feels good moment, what Ignite can actually do. So, yeah. What else to say about this build? Besides it looks fantastic and is like really good to play. I think we're just gonna finish this map here. And then we talk about how to put a build like that together, as well as like showing you the 2 different POVs that I've been working on with the initial idea of the build, as well as what did it end up with, basically, right? And this might actually be the last build that I'm playing in Softcore Trade League here, just because tomorrow we're gonna have... Oh wait, there's a Headhunter, nice. Because tomorrow starts the Endless Delve, right? And after all of these events that GGG decides to bring this league, whether it's like the Endless Delve, it's the Atlas Invasion, Delirium Everywhere, Endless Highs, the Gauntlet, like... December is full of events, and I wanna participate in a lot of them as good as possible, depending on how much I'm going to enjoy them. But it also means that I'm not gonna play any softcore. And for that reason, I don't know, in January then, at the end of the day, when all the events are done, will I be motivated to play PoE in January when it's literally the last month of the league, and usually I always make like my break, you know? So I don't know, this might actually be just the last build of the league. Good. Let's clear off this one here real quick. Let's check what the ritual says at the end of the day. As I said, Captain Lance proved it. He made all the content with this character, Simulacrum 30, whatever you want to run with this build, you're fair enough to just do everything, right? Good, anything here? Probably take this. Okay, we're good. Jeez. So, how does this build work together? I'm going to talk briefly about the core aspects of the build. It's not going to be this typical build guide that I do with like recommendation. I mean, kind of will do. I don't know. We're going to see. We're just going to tag along, I guess, right? So, first of all, what is this Herald MTX? It's the Herald, the Despair Herald effect. This is like this very beautiful, like firework, explosion kind of style. This is the one that I enjoy the most, pretty much, right? Yeah, so let's start with the basics, the explosions, right? So we do use an exploded chest. This is an elevated exploded chest, a 35% chance to explode, dealing a 10th of the maximum life as physical damage, then getting a little bit boosted with my Herald of Ash for Physis Extra, but it's not like too mandatory, right? But this causes the explosions. Then, since we're Elementalist, all of our hits can ignite, so even our explosions will actually ignite. And then we use, where is it? I think I have it on my Megalomaniac somewhere. Fan the Flames. to then spread those ignites to nearby enemies, and they also have then a chance once they die to explode, causing another chain reaction, right? But it's not only the Explo chest, it's also ignite causing explosions, because the way ignites work or are calculated in the game is like they'll have a tick base. Obviously, it is damage over time, so a monster will just like degen until it's dead. But for calculation, or what's happening in the background of the calculations, is that ignites are tick based. So let's say I have 10,000 ignite DPS. That means if the monster has 3k life, I'm having 7k overkill damage from this tick, and this will also generate overkill damage for our Herald of Ash, basically, right? So that's how this actually works. And in the start, I actually was using the... where is the ring? Let me see if I can find it real quick. Must be somewhere here. So I was using a Barracks or a Spite ring, so you've probably seen those kind of things on Ignite builds, Burning Arrow, whatever, to chain proliferate those ignites. But I found out after a certain amount of AoE, since I'm basically stacking Flow of Life and Burning Brights, which gives me increased area of effect. And thanks to the Heart of Destruction, we also get a 60% increased AoE. Once everything is up and going, then I feel like there is not a difference anymore if I wear the Barracks Respite or not. But that's why I say, like, if you have low AoE, then I would definitely recommend playing with this ring. I did for the most part, and after swapping some gear with his shield now, with the helmet, I actually removed the Barracks Respite, and my chain reactions feel like 95% as good as they did with the ring, and that's just because of the pure AoE. Good, let's talk a bit over the gear. How do I get certain things? So if we're gonna write it down, right? We are basically immune to critical strikes, right? Critical strikes, we are immune to elemental ailments, we are immune to poison, to bleed, to corrupted blood. Then monster damage is unlucky. Then what else do we have? 70k armor. We have 50k evasion. So I'm just gonna try to toggle along 90% max res with tempered of war. What else? We have a barely bit of a chance to block, which is not really too necessary. And then the rest is just like damage in its entire form. Good. Immune to critical strikes. This comes from the Viridius Veil. In the early version, what I did, I was not intending to play with this helmet. I actually wanted to elevate my own helmet with, like, nearby enemies have negative fire resistance, and then like elevate that to -12, and then basically combine this with an Awakener Orb with nearby enemies take increased elemental damage, which is a big damage boost. But after some time realizing, dude, I have already way too much, or not too much, but a good amount of DPS, I decided to go with, in my opinion, one of my most favorite items in the game, which is Viridius Veil, which says damage of enemies hitting you is unlucky while you have a magic ring equipped, and depending if you have either two blue rings or magic rings equipped, or depending on left side or right side, you're gonna get more benefits like hexproof and take no extra damage from critical strikes. So basically, I am hexproof due to my Ruby Flask here, at least not hexproof, but I'm curse immune. Basically, they have 100% reduced effect, so they don't deal anything, even though I am cursed. It's like a bit of a difference if you're actually hexproof or if you're just unaffected, which this flask basically does. So I decided that I only need one blue ring, and I just decided to do like a life ring with life and just craft a minimum frenzy just for this extra little bit of damage, right? But as I said, initially I wanted to go with this helm, and then I had a Watcher's Eye somewhere, which is this one over here. So on this one I have dot multi, some fizz damage taken as cold damage, and as well as you take 58% reduced extra damage from critical strikes. And I would combine this one. For example, you can get on the Lethal Pride on those clusters here, you can also get reduced damage from critical strikes. Let me quickly see if I have one over here. Certainly not. Unlucky, unlucky. Yeah, but anyways, there is a way that you just divine it for Rakiata to keep the Tempered of War, and then on these notes, here I have regen and increased armor. You can also get 10% reduced damage from critical strikes, and you can then run the Armor Mastery, which has another 30% reduced damage from critical strikes. So you end up having, like, I don't know, between 80 and 100% reduced damage. This was the initial idea, and now I said, like, you know what, I'm just gonna stay with the Viridius Veil, even though it's less damage, but it's just so much tankiness and defense that you get out of it, right? For the skills, Malevolence, or let's talk about the auras, I think I don't have to like specifically go over everything, just because if you have so much currency for making a build like that, you should be aware on how Path of Building works, and you would probably get all the information out of it. I just want to go over the core facts of the build. When it comes to auras, I'm running Purity of Fire for the max resistance, Malevolence, then Herald of Ash, Purity of Elements, Defiance Banner, Grace, as well as Determination. So the combo with Grace, Determination, plus a Jade Flask, plus a Granite Flask is just like ridiculous, you know? Like with Molten Shell up, I'm like 74,000 armor and 50,000 evasion, so a shit ton of physical damage reduction, as well as 85% chance to evade with a bit of block on top of that. It's just insane. So, critical strikes from the helmet. Then, immune to elemental ailments coming from the Purity of Elements. Then, immune to poison, bleed, and corrupted blood. So, corrupted blood, as obvious, not really too hard. Any, like, rare jewel where you can, like, get corrupted blood on it. And then live, burning damage, fire multi, whatever you can fit in. When it comes to poison and bleed immunity, this is something a bit newer. So you've probably seen that one on my Essence Drain Contagion character. I'm having 70% chance to avoid being poisoned and bleed as an elevated Hunter mod, I think it was. Yeah, Hunter mod. And that means I'm 70%. So where do I get the other 30%? And this time around, I actually decided to go with an Abyss Jewel, and this can actually T1, double T1, chance to avoid being poisoned, chance to avoid being bleeding. So basically 70% on the boots, 30% on my Abyss Jewel, so we're now immune to bleeding as well as poison. And even though I have like a fair amount of chaos resistance, which is 75, poison still hurts, right? When you just cannot be poisoned at all, right? So this is like really, really good quality of life. Monster damage is unlucky, comes also from the Viridius Veil, and like, I just think it is insane, right? It also gets +2 level of Socket of Gems, so your Enlighten is actually level 6, so you have like a way easier time to actually fit in a lot of auras, right? So what does actually monster damage is hitting you, is basically unlucky damage, does that mean, right? Basically a monster hits you, right? It has like, let's say 5,000 to 10,000 damage per hit, right? So it hits you, it rolls like between 5 and 10,000, and this is the damage that you get that is then getting mitigated and so on, right? But when it says unlucky, it means it rolls twice. So it would be as I would, the monster hits you, it's calculated randomly 5 to 10k, 5 to 10k, and whatever of these two rolls lower, this is the damage that I'm getting, right? It's pretty much the same as like your critical strikes are lucky. That means your damage gets calculated twice, and whatever is the higher number you're gonna deal as a damage, right? It's just a big layer of defense when it comes to that. I think like this is like one of the best items that you can play in hardcore, and even me as a softcore player, I just fell in love with this item, and it's so freaking cheap. I think the enchant plus the helmet was like 1x, maybe? There's like so many helmets on the market, you just get them for like 5 chaos or something, even though it's a Maven drop, right? Good, then 70k armor comes from, as I said, the Granite Flask with the increased effect, thanks to our Mageblood permanently active with the increased effect, and then Determination. I think I actually don't even have, I should, wait a second. I'm currently running the Anomalous Determination. This is actually wrong. This is just from my old version, okay? What you want to run, since I opted in Grace now, you definitely want to run the other Determination, like Divergent Determination, where you get like a bunch of extra armor based on your evasion rating. So this would up my armor even higher. And then Defiance Banner, if I can find it somewhere. Defiance Banner. Base run, Enduring Cry, Defiance Banner. This is also like a big, juicy, extra critical strike chance. Not critical strikes, armor and evasion. And nearby enemies have reduced critical strike chance. This is like by far the best banner. Then 90% with max risk with Tempered by Ward. So this is a keystone coming from the Lethal Pride by Rakiata. And what this gives you is Tempered by Ward. You have 50% less cold resistance and 50% less lightning resistance. That basically means you need twice amount of resistance to actually be res kept. If you have an item with like 50 all res, then you get 50 fire, but only 25 lightning and cold. So you need a lot more resistance to cover that. But therefore, 50% of our cold and lightning damage is taken as fire damage. And since I'm running Purity of Fire, as well as things like, where is it here? Molten One's Mark for max resistance. You can even opt in skill over here for Prismatic Skin for a maximum fire resistance. You know, you just want to have 90% max res, and then 50% of our cold and lightning damage I get as fire, which then gets mitigated by 90%. So this is like a huge layer of defense, but it's very hard to use something like that without a mage, but just because we get like shit tons of elemental resistance, even though I had to opt in a couple of extra resistance to even be able to rescue myself with a Mageblood, right? So that's why I say like without a Mageblood, I don't know if how easy it is to actually fit in Tempered by War, because in the end you need like 150 lightning resistance. No, wait, actually even more, because once you're done with Act 10, you get like -60, right? So I have like -60, and you want to get up to 75, right? So you basically have like 75 plus 60, and this times 2. So you need like 270 cold resistance to basically be res capped in that part, right? So it's ridiculous. And lightning resistance. And then you also want to have your fire resistance, because fire resistance is not the problem, because you get a shit ton of resistance out of your purity as well, right? Good. Next part I want to talk is a chance to block. Well, this is something I opted in the past. So let me actually take up here my initially planned PUB, which actually runs on 16 million Righteous Fire. This is complete unethical mirror tier gear, because I make my PUBs the way that I say, like, I want to get the most out of it. How is it possible? How do we get so much damage? And this is why, like, I mean, a couple things are not even done crafted, right? But at the end of the day, it just like just giving me myself a direction. Where do I want to go, right? As well as like triple 1 voices with my beautiful jewels over here, using them I think like 9 times or something, right? And at some point I got like a total amount of like over 30 million DPS with Righteous Fire, Wild Righteous Fire, as well as Scorching Ray once it's max staked up. But once I started to put this gear together, as I said, I opted in so many quality of life things that I said, like, I don't need more DPS, and this is the current version. I'm running like a 5 million DPS with Righteous Fire. Let me actually put up my... Where is it? Grey Stonebrand... Scourging Ray. I actually need to go this one to maximum stacks, which is like 8, I think, right? So let me go back to my Wild Righteous Fire. So we're actually on like 5.5 mil Righteous Fire DPS, and therefore I also had to sacrifice a couple things. So on my perfect PUB, there was no chance to like immune to bleeding or immune to critical strikes and stuff like that. And as I said, once you start building a character, you find out a lot of more ways to make your character better, even though it has less DPS in the end, because like at this kind of like currency investment, it doesn't really matter too much what your damage number says, as long as you bring like all the quality of life things to your character. Good. So yeah, that's why I opted in the last phase to take a shield with socketed gems have reduced, increased mana reservation efficiency, some chance to block, some recover life on block, just as another layer of defense. It's not like that this build doesn't have enough defense already, but hey, more is better, I guess, right? And this shield made me able to use Grace on top, because my original version did not have Grace in that part, right? So yeah, this is pretty much the way I built this character, and I think like it's just insane. I had to use 3 reduced mana reservation clusters plus 1 introspection to get my fire res to 90%, using as well like more increased effect like aura effect and elevated explode combined here to get the 90%. Other than that, if I wouldn't have made it, I would just skill up over here and take Prismatic Skin and Maximum Fire Resistance to get an easier time there. Good. I think PUB is in the description below if you want to check it out. Let's talk about the other items. The Scepter is basically level of fire spell skill gems, level of all spell skill gems, fire dot multi, fire damage, everything that has to do with damage. The shield, as I said, reduce mana reservation and recover life on block and chance, and then just some extra fire damage. Amulet is pretty much like one of the most beautiful items in this league. Fire dot multi, life, minimum frenzy charge, which is aceling. Then we have plus level of all fire and intelligence skill gems, as well as here flammability ring with like life dot multi. This is crafted with an essence of, what is it, delirium, horror. Let me quickly check. I think I have some... No, I don't have any. But it was one of the special ones here that gives you the dot multi suffix. Then you basically just get yourself a fractured ring and just hope that you hit something nice like a lot of life or regen, some res, whatever you can fit in. For the gloves, it's basically elevated Culling Strike combined with the elevated fire dot multi, and then just like reroll your prefixes with like whatever you can get. Damage over time. This one is fire conversion, which is completely unnecessary, but... you know, whatever you can fit in, basically, right? Flasks. Ruby Flask with reduced effect of Curse. My Jade with Evasion. Then my Granite with Armor. And my Quicksilver Flasks with the all-res part on top of that. When it comes to the cosmetic, I don't really have to talk too much about it just because these things are not available anymore. This was like, the Dominator supporter pack was back like 3 years ago, was like a $480 supporter pack. I think the second one that I bought after the Kitaba one. So basically, the cool thing is the golden character effect, which is new, which makes your character basically a golden statue, basically, right? So I think this is like one of the coolest things here, and it works with almost every single MTX. It just sometimes a bit buggy with the Void Impera wings. It just looks a bit awkward, I would say, right? But I really like this like complete golden effect, and it just looks pretty cool, and it shows the actual power of this build, which definitely is a currency in that case, right? Good. I think that's pretty much it for this build. As I say again, I use it as a mapping character. It is able to do all content. It's just a very beautiful Righteous Fire experiment, and yeah, I can definitely recommend if you have the currency of building something like that. This is one of the builds that I would say requires a Mageblood build. If you have one and you say like, yo, this build is actually insane, I want to play that, then feel free to do so. As I said, path of building link is in the description below. And yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.